Good evening. My name is Carla Higgins, and I will be your moderator for tonight's webinar. We are very grateful to have Dr. Suhas G.Kshirsagar, an Ayurvedic medicine physician, author, and educator, to present his research on living by the clock, the clinical application of chronobiology. The learner objectives for tonight are to understand the science of clock genes, to learn how chronobiology can affect weight, sleep, exercise, stress, and well-being, apply the blended methods of Ayurvedic and chronobiology in clinical practice. So Dr. Suhas is a routine advisor to Douglas Laboratories. He is an Ayurvedic physician and author as well as educator. He is the founder and the director of Ayurvedic Healing Inc. in California, as well as a consultant to the Chopra Center in California, dean to the Mount Madonna College of Ayurveda in California, and best-selling author of Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life, The Hot Belly Diet, and The Art and Science of Vedic Counseling. Dr. Suhas is a world-renowned Ayurvedic physician and educator from India, born in a traditional Rig Vedic family, and holds an MD in Ayurvedic medicine with a gold medal from the prestigious Pune University in India. Dr. Suhas is one of the most academically accomplished Ayurvedic physicians in the U.S. who has traveled worldwide popularizing Ayurvedic medicine, setting up clinics, offering courses in both medical professional and lay persons, and has provided Ayurvedic consultations for thousands of patients. He is an internationally acclaimed motivational speaker and a visiting professor at various Ayurvedic schools and universities worldwide. He is an advisor and consultant for the Chopra Center, and he was featured in numerous radio and television shows like Dr. Oz, NBC, and many more. He is an experienced clinician and an insightful Vedic counselor who adds tremendous value to his clients and students alike. He is the lead formulator of Ziri Achieve, Excel, Ziri Rise, and Purify. He is currently the director of Ayurvedic Healing and Integrative Wellness Clinic in Santa Cruz, California. Please send in all of your questions for Dr. Suhas after the slides are finished using the GoToWebinar toolbar on your screen, and these will be answered at the end of the presentation. With that, I'd like to turn this presentation over to Dr. Suhas.
Thank you, Carla, and it's absolutely my great honor and pleasure to be with all of you this evening. I wish all of you a wonderful holiday season ahead. And today, I'm going to talk about something which I'm very passionate about. I'm a classically trained Ayurvedic physician, and Ayurveda, as we know, is one of the most ancient and comprehensive system of healthcare that is known to humanity. It actually predates back to almost 5,000 to 6,000 years, but its concepts are even more relevant in the modern day and age. And chronobiology is one of this concept which I recently wrote a book about. And I think it is gaining a lot of prominence and importance because chronobiology is nothing but biological timing. The study of how biological clocks work to control and regulate almost every function of life is called as chronobiology. And it is hardwired and fairly inflexible, which means that you have to respect your internal time. Otherwise, it will manifest as imbalance and disease. The internal rhythms of these millions of clocks who talk to each other constantly, even at the DNA level, even at the cellular or the genetic level, are regulating when you wake up, when you sleep, when you digest food, how you eat, nearly perform every other function of a living organism. And there are clocks everywhere, and there are genes which are cycling everywhere. In fact, last year's Nobel Prize in Medicine was awarded to 3 American physiologists, Michael Rosbash, Jeffrey Hall, Michael Young, for their decades of work in this field. And I think Ayurveda is a perfect template to really understand how our busy schedules is taking a toll on our physical health. And we are all clinicians, and we see this in our everyday practice. We can prescribe them supplements, we can give them some lifestyle changes, but we are not able to really imagine how busy their lifestyle has gotten. And the lifestyles are getting very hectic, more and more sedentary. And if it is coupled with poor nutrition, we are at a crossroad where these non-communicable diseases are becoming fatal at an alarming rate. And the new science is clearly telling us that disruption in circadian rhythms can turn on some very unhealthy genes and can turn off some very healthy ones. So these diseases can not only be prevented but also be reversed with the positive lifestyle changes. In my clinic, I see everybody coming and complaining about these things, about their busy schedule. They're feeling tired, they're feeling fatigued, they're having various food intolerances. It's not allergies, but they are sensitive to certain foods, feeling dull, heavy, lethargic, toxic, gaining weight, feeling puffy, bloated, having lack of focus and concentration, poor sexual desire, performance, restless sleep, and emotions. So this is something where we cannot really circle an ICD code for this itself. And the era of lifestyle medicine is something that we can not only prevent but reverse the changes in almost 80% of chronic diseases itself. And I think Ayurveda actually provides a perfect template to what we call it as a personalized medicine, which helps us identify the genetic as well as metabolic differences between individuals and then give them or prescribe them a specific program based upon those differences. And in Ayurveda, we call this as mind body types. We use the term called dosha. So it's a different lingo, but it helps us understand the physiology works differently in different people itself. And food is information. And we are learning this painfully enough that the field of nutrigenomics studies how food or nutrients can influence the expression of our genes in the body. If you are eating something hot, spicy, and fiery foods, you will be inflamed down to the cellular level itself. If you are eating foods which are going to make you heavy, dull, soft, smooth, and sticky, that's exactly what the body is going to become. And what the way Ayurveda looks at it and the way we look at it from a functional medicine point of view is inflammation, poor digestion, mismanagement of stress, poor diet, toxins, lack of sleep, toxic emotions, lack of exercise, nutritional deficiencies, unhealthy relationships is at the backdrop of all the diseases that we actually see in clinical medicine. It can be heart disease, it can be cancer, it can be autoimmune conditions, diabetes, hormonal imbalances, all of those conditions itself. So I think we need to get back what we call it as the root cause of what is going on. And if you look back where and why people are choosing bad foods, why people are having a poor lifestyle, why they don't take good care of themselves, it's, I think, unhappiness deep down. So, since they're unhappy with their own life, it kind of leads them to a poor lifestyle itself. So, I think we need to go back and kind of create a fusion or a blend to a spiritual blend of understanding about life, the meaning of life, the purpose, and kind of blend it into a clinical medicine. And that's exactly what Ayurveda is. Ayurveda is an original lifestyle medicine which clearly understands that your body is a process. It's not a frozen structure. It has to be constantly interacting with everything that you do. The new field of epigenetics clearly tells us that you are exactly a replica of the environment that you are living. If it's a hostile environment, that's the kind of body you're going to create. If it's a loving, nurturing atmosphere, that's the kind of body you create. Because your body is an energy information field. And your genes, that's exactly what we are learning, are not deterministics. You're not destined to get every disease that you have from a genetic perspective. From the epigenetic perspective, the kind of way you live your life, you can turn on your genes and turn off your genes. You can lengthen your telomeres. And we have proven this with 2 to 3 weeks of a health and wellness retreat where people come, eat good, healthy food, meditate, do yoga, get some simple massages, and in 2 or 3 weeks you can lengthen the telomeres and change the brain structure itself. The new science of neuroplasticity is actually helping us to really understand how our brain itself is interacting with all the different parts of the body, including the gut. So the enteric nervous system, the central nervous system is constantly in communication. So the fragmented parts where we were putting medicine in silos in different parts is slowly disappearing, and we are looking as the whole body as a complete energy and information field. And the reason why we are discussing this today in the light of chronobiology is we need to change our relationship with time. Whenever we don't have time for anything else, we are not able to take good care of ourselves, our clocks are ticking faster, then we are literally running out of time. So awareness is the key. Being mindful of all the surroundings and taking good care of yourself and prioritizing your health is the key for transforming and reinventing your body itself. Because when we accumulate toxins and slowly it starts clogging the channels, it kind of dampens our metabolic functions itself, and slowly it will create a toxic feeling itself. So the purpose is is to detoxify the body, purify the cells and tissues, reprogram the vitality, and put them onto a path of rejuvenation as such. So when we talk about renewing ourselves, one of the basic needs that the way we renew ourselves and especially we boost our energy is through the cycles of sleep. Diet, sleep, and exercise. These are the three pillars. Diet, sleep, and exercise. These are the three pillars, and they go hand in hand together. And especially in the light of rhythms of nature itself, we need to be paying attention to these three things because everything else is shifting and moving. Our little planet Earth is tumbling on its axis and swirling at dizzying speed around the sun, and the seasons are created, the rhythms are created. We call them as circadian rhythms, which are the 24 hours of cycles of day and night. The seasonal rhythms are created, where 12-month cycles of Earth around the sun, where various seasons are created. Lunar rhythms, which are the rhythms related with the monthly cycle of the moon around the Earth. Moon is the satellite, and it circles around the Earth. And the tidal rhythm, which are the gravitational influences of moon on water, and the celestial rhythm that we talk about from an astrological or astronomical perspective, which are the influence of the planetary cycle itself. And what we are learning through the discovery of the clock genes and what these circadian rhythms are telling us is if we are able to sync our lifestyle with how our body is trying to get certain functions taken care of, then exactly we are in sync with the body's clock. So, for example, we wake up around 6 o'clock in the morning, and 6:45 is the sharpest rise of our blood pressure. So, if that is the time when you're waking up hurriedly and checking your emails, it's going to actually create more imbalance into your system itself. So, if you wake up in the morning and you engage into some activity of meditation or mindfulness or going for a walk or doing some physical activity, you are able to actually minimize the tendency for the rise in the blood pressure because the cortisol also rises around that time. Around 7 o'clock, the melatonin secretion stops, and you're actually ready to get started with the day itself. Because around 8 to noon is the highest alertness time, where your mind, body for creativity is the optimum time to get the bulk of your work done around that time. In the afternoon, around 2:30 is the best time for coordination, catching up on your work, and making sure that you are responding to everything and get enough work done by that time. In the afternoon, around 5 o'clock, the body is actually ready for some more physical, strenuous activity because around 5 o'clock, there's the greatest cardiovascular efficiency and muscular strength. So, if you go to the gym around that time, if you hit on the tennis courts or go and do your favorite sport at that time, it's really good activity because the body is going to support, and the research actually support the skeletal muscle activity when you're doing at that time. Around again 6 o'clock in the evening, the blood pressure peaks up, there's the increased body temperature. So this is the time to unwind. You should slowly unwind, get ready for having a peaceful good night's sleep around that time. By 9 o'clock in the evening, the melatonin secretion starts, and melatonin is secreted by suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is a little area in the brain, which is giving signals for the secretions of melatonin itself that helps to entrain the clock. That entrainment signal, which is sent to peripheral nervous system as well as for the whole body to coordinate various functions. It's such a tiny area. It's almost like a size of a grain of a rice, and it's smacked way deep in the middle of hypothalamus, right above the optic nerve itself. So the old school of thought was that this is the area where you send the signals, and then the whole body knows. It's like a big clock which is telling the whole body what to do. But now we know that even cells, even the genes are able to tap or sense time and really carry out their functions around that time. So our job is not to throw a wrench in the perfect functioning of the physiology, but sync our activity that we are doing. So the most important time is around 9:30 in the evening, where you should unwind from all the work, from strenuous entertainment, any kind of blue light exposure around that time, and get ready for the sleep itself. Because from a chronobiological perspective, we try to understand that when we talk about digestion, when we talk about how the body responds to different diseases, and even manifestation of various symptoms are totally based upon what is the best time to go to bed and stay asleep, what is the best time to digest your meal, at which time of the day itself, when the lungs are active, when the hormonal fountains are going off, what is the best time to synthesize cholesterol and metabolize impurities and toxins. All of those are cyclical body clocks that are happening. And these activities the body is trying to carry out. So cortisol release happens in the morning, the catecholamine surge, which leads to blood pressure spiking or heart rate in the morning. Around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, the platelets are very thick and sticky, where it can lead to a heart attack kind of a situation around that time, because the body is ready to create that kind of a symptom around that time, because the platelet adhesiveness and the blood is getting a little bit thicker as such. The airway patency has a little bit of a challenge late in the evening itself, and you will have some breathlessness around that time. The insulin regulation happens around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening. So if you're doing physical activity, which will help you with your insulin regulation, your cholesterol, triglyceride synthesis, all of those things are in sync with what the body is trying to do itself. And we are trying to understand that everything that we are doing here is kind of supporting this whole function from a chronobiological perspective. And and the key is that since we understand that the body is trying to carry out certain functions, and your biochemical response to everything is so peculiar, that we want to make sure that your physiological functioning is in sync with what the body is trying to do. And there's more and more research that is coming out on circadian rhythms, and we can talk enough about it. One of the most important ones, which I would like to share here, is consuming more of daily caloric intake at dinner predisposes to obesity. And I actually wrote my earlier book, Hot Belly Diet, based upon this research itself, where if your dinner is the heaviest of all, in the study about 1,200 people filled out their food diaries, and they were all having normal weight and had no metabolic issues. 6 years later, the same subjects were invited back for a checkup. They looked at their calorie contents, and those people who were consuming daily calories at night were twice as likely to have developed obesity and metabolic syndrome itself. So, in 6 years, those people who were having bigger calories for dinner itself. So, one of the tagline that I used in my book was eat late to gain some weight, sleep late to gain some weight. And I think this is exactly proving this research itself. Another interesting research that came out, where we were asking some e-readers, and this was published in National Academy of Science in 2015, where the volunteers were asked to use e-readers for 4 hours a night for about a week. And we did a survey about that, where these people who were using e-readers for about 4 hours before sleeping, they had more trouble falling asleep at night and more trouble getting up early in the morning, because that blue light was giving signals to the melatonin secretion that this is still a daylight and it doesn't need to be secreted at this time. So, and our cell phones and our computers and tablets are even more brighter than an e-reader itself. So computer and television use in 2 hours before bedtime might be keeping you awake sometimes. So changing these habits are very, very important itself. Another thing which the research came out was in Cell Metabolism, that was published in 2015, that they used a smartphone app to reveal the erratic diurnal eating patterns in humans. So the volunteers in the study were asked to take a photograph of everything that they were eating, snacking, or drinking for 3 weeks. So whatever you're taking a cup of coffee, just take a photo and it was uploaded on the app. You are having a snack, just take a photo and send it. It was uploaded. So what the researcher discovered, in about half of their respondents were eating off and on for about 15 to 16 hours a day. So it's about 16 hours was the time that they were constantly eating, and that was making their blood sugar constantly fluctuate. So it doesn't give your digestive tract time to rest or reset itself. Your body needs about 12 hours each night without food in order to rest and repair itself. So, and we all know the chronobiology and the neurobiology of seasonal affective disorders even spring forward. So moving your clock forward by 1 hour actually increases the tendency for heart attack by about 10% itself. So I think we are learning this, that sleep patterns and how it affects the body. The exercise, and it was an interesting study where we had volunteers do some exercise either in the morning or later in the day itself. And it was an interesting study that those people who did exercise in the morning actually were able to lose weight much more easily than any other time of the day itself. So I think morning exercise is a very powerful, what we call it, is a metabolic reset itself. Hypoxia affect the expression of circadian genes in the mouse brain. You're talking about regular endurance training and exercise endurance uh, gene expressions in human skeletal muscles. So when the athletes are flying in different time zones, when the NBA games are happening in different parts of the country itself, with 2 to 3 hours of time zone changes, it affects athletic performance in these people itself. So I think we are understanding that the social jet lag, where people are not behaving or having a proper routine over the weekend, that can be also very problematic itself. So the solution that I came up when I started talking to hundreds and thousands of people, that let's regroup this concept of diet, sleep, and exercise as the three pillars. We engage them into detoxification for metabolic cleansing, so that the energy production pathways are more clear through liver, through gallbladder, through energetic movement, something which will boost their cognitive function using the right kind of spices, which is creating vasodilation, improving heat and circulation, and also minimizing the congestion and increasing what we call it as bioenhancer or bioaccelerator effect on your digestive function. Selecting the right kind of healing organic non-GMO foods. Daily oil massage, this is an age-old Ayurvedic things to help you restore the flow of neurotransmitters, which allow you to feel good about yourself and release a sensation of well-being. Breathing exercise is a very powerful one. It actually aligns the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, creates oxygenation. It's actually the connecting the dot between heart and brain together. So those are the two areas that need to be regulated and relaxed. And oxygenation through breathing exercise is a very, very powerful technique. And there's tons of research that is published on this technique called as pranayama. Yoga is a perfect neuromuscular integration where you are lengthening your spine and you are allowing to straighten various kinks that are happening at a postural level, at a structural level. Meditation is a part of this program for an effective stress management, and an ideal daily and seasonal routine, which I have laid out clearly in this book, Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life itself. And I'm going to go over some very important things which can be easily added to a clinical setting. I've worked with Douglas Lab for many years, and these are some of my favorite products who feature in this program. So initially, I help them take some melatonin at bedtime, around 3 milligram, and it's not only that is a sleep aid itself, but it also is a powerful anti-inflammatory hormone. So it also helps you sleep and unwind. Seditol Plus is also one of my favorite, which helps you also deepen the quality of sleep. Ashwagandha, which is an age-old Ayurvedic herb called as Videnia somnifera, which is an excellent herb for as an adaptogen. So it helps you manage your stress and nervous system more effectively. curcumin, which is turmeric, is very good for reducing vascular inflammation and congestion itself. It's also good for brain and cognitive function. It's good for heart, good for brain. It's also good to reduce pain and stiffness that can affect the quality of your sleep. And brain calm is also one of my favorite, which also regulates the functioning of the brain to a level where your alertness and concentration is improved, and it reduces anxiety to a certain extent. So every time we talk to people, we are able to get back to this very basic understanding. So I'm going to outline some very simple pointers that I have used in this program. Number one is eating late. So eating late and gaining weight almost gets synonym together. So you want to make sure your evening meal is done by by 7 p.m. ideally, and you create almost a state of fasting from 7 p.m. to 8 a.m., which is a minimum 13 hour of fasting every night, where you can drink water, you may have a herbal tea or something, but there's no food that is going in the system from that time. And another important component of this program was trying to avoid snacking in between the meals. So if you are able to have a light breakfast around 8, 8:30 in the morning, and then have lunch around 12, 12:30, but you're not going to snack any food in between, any sugary drink in between breakfast and lunch, and same with lunch and dinner itself. So if you're having 12:30 to 1 o'clock as lunch, and by 7 o'clock you're having your dinner, ideally you should avoid any kind of snacking in between the meals itself. When you're not eating anything after 7 p.m., it's actually a good idea, because that 13-hour fasting every night is going to reset your metabolic function. It actually revs up your fat burning engine, and more importantly, many of the metabolic impurities are purged out much more effectively, and it doesn't really affect your sleep. One of the common challenge that I feel when people eat big dinners and late in the night and then go to sleep, the food is still in their belly without being digested, which hampers the quality of their sleep, and they have difficulty waking up in the morning and wake up feeling very dull, heavy, groggy, and tired. When you go to sleep slightly hungry, then you wake up much more easily and you have tons of energy in the morning itself. So another important thing that I added to this program in this book was staying away from any artificial light or blue light in the night before you go to bed. So at least 2 hours before you sleep, and the lights off by 10, 10:30 in the evening. So from 8:30 to 10:30, you should not be exposing yourself to any of those blue light itself, because sleep itself is a miracle drug. I think we are decoding tons of functions. It's one of the most potent anti-inflammatory activity that you will ever do. And I think helping yourselves to prepare a good night's sleep. And as I said, diet, sleep, and exercise, they go hand in hand together. If you're not eating the right foods and you're not digesting, then you will not be able to sleep. Since you do not get the sleep and you do not have the energy, you won't have enough juice to exercise or move your body or have that activity going. And since you're not pleasantly tired, again, you will not kindle your digestive fire and will be hungry at the meal times. Neither you will be tired to fall asleep in the night itself. So I think going back to those basic understanding is important. The key component that I laid out in the book was morning workout. Morning workout is a metabolic reset itself, because that allows you to really wake up. It wakes up your digestive function, and it kind of sets you onto a path where 8:30 lighter breakfast, the main meal of the day, is in the middle of the day, so that you have enough time to digest your food by the time in the evening itself, and you are able to kind of prepare yourself to sleep when you have your dinner by 7 o'clock, and you finish the whole process of digestion by 10 o'clock in the night before you sleep, so that you have completed digestion and it doesn't interfere with your sleeping pattern itself. Ayurveda is a philosophically based medical science, so it gives a lot of importance to your mind and emotions itself. So health, we understand from an Ayurvedic perspective, as a byproduct of enlightenment. So paying attention to, in a mindful way, to everything that you do, because we have suddenly become human doings instead of human beings. And all these sciences that we are actually talking about is something which is creating more organized setup for you to really look at what is important and prioritize things, because those busy work schedule is changing the biology without you being knowing it. There's a term that we use in medicine called as email apnea, where every time you're reading an email or a text, you end up in holding your breath just for those fractions of seconds. Every text, every voice message, Skype, Instagram, Facebook, any posting is toying with your biology and neurochemistry to a certain extent. So not using our time properly is something which is a big challenge. So I think we are able to go back to this understanding about paying attention to our priorities in life, and going back to this understanding that the chronobiological understanding of lifestyle is so important, and we should be able to go back and kind of structure a program based upon lifestyle, which is really good. So just to summarize one more time, I think eating right food at the right time, consuming your most of the calories from 8 a.m. till 7 p.m., like the movement of sun. So as the sun wakes up in the morning and sets in the evening, so it's the solar nutrition. Brisk workout first thing in the morning. It sheds heaviness, energizes your day, resets your metabolic function. Sleep between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. So slowly you will be able to get into that rhythm. And as you fall asleep easily and wake up energized, that's exactly good. Your job is to avoid any exposure to artificial light and blue light at least 1 to 2 hours before you sleep, and 1 hour after you wake up in the morning itself. Avoiding social jet lag, keeping your weekend routine as the same as weekdays itself. Sleeping in on weekends and erratic eating habits every weekend will undo all the good things that you have done throughout the week itself. Practicing mindfulness, spending some time outdoors with natural light, making sure that you're reducing consciously the pace of life as and when you can. So I often tell my patients, for a fast acting relief, try slowing down. Thank you. I'm going to stop here and maybe take some questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Suhas. That was such great information. I mean, some things that we aren't even presently aware of are, some of the biggest things that can make the biggest difference. So I do believe that we have some questions that I'd like to just present. And this first person is asking, my husband has type 1 diabetes, but when his sugar insulin fluctuates, it causes him to wake up regularly and disturbs his sleep cycle. He gets up early and works out, so he gets plenty of light. Any advice on sleeping, on getting rested through the night?
Well, I think it's possible because of type 1 diabetes and the insulin fluctuation that his sleep is getting a little bit imbalanced. I think there are two very classical Ayurvedic recommendations that we often tell to these people is to soak their feet in cool water few minutes before they go to bed. So whenever they're going to bed for a few minutes, just take a bucket of cold tap water and just soak your feet so that it pulls a lot of heat away, and it actually stabilizes the regulation of this. Once you cool down the system itself, then that insulin fluctuation becomes less. So it's an interesting thing to try. And the second combination is there are three spices that we often use, which are very potent to kind of stabilize this fluctuation. It's a combination of ginger, long pepper, and black pepper. Ginger, long pepper, and black pepper. And there's a supplement of all the three combined together, which you can find in any Whole Foods or natural food market, called as Trikatu, Trikatu, Trikatu. And you take it a couple of capsules right after dinner in the evening, and it should really help him.
That's so interesting. Okay. I might use the water technique myself. Yeah, that's something I've never heard of before, but it does warrant, it can't hurt to try, right? Yeah. The next question is, if you don't have time for both meditation and exercising first thing in the morning, which would be more important for improved health and sleep?
I think exercise would be more important, but I would go with even meditation. Even if you end up in doing for 5 minutes or 7 minutes, just allowing yourselves to be quiet, centered, start your day filled with gratitude, just being thankful of awake in the morning, and just allow it to slow down. Just allow the day to unfold and plan your activities in your mind. Even for 5 minutes, you do that, it kind of sets the tone. So I would advise you. Exercise is important because that is much more powerful in shifting those things. But even those few minutes of meditation, which is a very important mindfulness based technique, which sets the tone for everything. So, in
Yes,
other words, both.
both. Yeah, even if you get
And
5 minutes of
even
meditation.
exercise is it can be a meditation if you're not watching television while you're doing that. If you get into your own zone of walking or exercising, whether it's treadmill or bike or elliptical or things like that, and not listen to music but listen to your own radio station, you can slow down and unwind while you're doing that also.
Yes, that's a very good point. I think that that's true, not trying to tune everything out, but to really tune in during exercise. And yoga is the perfect thing for that, right?
Yeah.
So another question is, what would your advice be for shift workers and how they can regulate their circadian rhythms?
It's a great question, and there's no right way to do a wrong thing. And there are lots of people who are working in the night that you and me can sleep peacefully, but I think it does take a toll. Recently, the World Health Organization has announced late night shift, especially swing shift, as a carcinogen, and
Oh,
it does affect those people. It kind of creates disruption in their sleep, their energy, their metabolic function. Nurses who work late in the night, their chances of getting or having a cancer increases by about 41%. So I think it's a challenge. So those people have to be extra careful about what kind of caffeine they consume in the night to keep themselves awake. What are the eating patterns? How much sleep that they can get? I think a regular night shift is not that problematic compared to the swing shift. That sometimes you are having a shift from um, 7 to 3 in the night, and sometimes it's from 6 to midnight or things like that. So those are more problematic. But I think those people have to be super careful and meticulous. There's a reason why we call it as graveyard shift, isn't it?
mhm. Yes, I think, yeah, there's definitely a distinction there between an irregular pattern and just a consistent pattern. Um, I know that there have been some studies on just jet lag and melatonin, but would melatonin be recommended for people on that swing shift, like you were saying?
It might help, but many times when you are kind of supplementing these things, then the body gets a little bit more uh, used to those things and kind of suppresses its own production of melatonin.
Oh,
So creating a conducive atmosphere for sleep is always a better way, and you will deplete those reserves if you're abusing that. So I think it's a good idea just as a little crutch, but it's always a good
mhm.
idea to probably get back whenever you can and darken your bedroom and minimize the light and create an atmosphere of night so that you can get 3 to 4 hours of good quality sleep during the day itself.
Yeah. Okay. That's a
And it should
great
never
answer.
be done right after eating. It should never be done right after eating. So you should get the sleep and then eat afterwards.
Oh, okay. That is very good advice. I don't think you know, the timing of things is really important, which you're pointing out.
Yeah.
There's another question. What is the number one reason for waking during the night and not being able to return to sleep? And what is the most beneficial change to address this?
As I said, that it's the heat in the body which makes you wake up in the middle of the night. So the body gets hot, and when the body temperature rises, that's exactly when the sleep gets lighter also. And so
Mm,
soaking feet in cool water in the night pulls that heat and allows you to do that. Keeping the bedroom not hot, especially in these winter months, make sure that it keeps on a little bit on the cooler where you're not freezing with your hands and feet, but it should not be super hot itself. It's mostly we call from an Ayurvedic perspective as a pitta imbalance, where you fall asleep okay, but then you wake up in the wee hours and then you start spinning and start thinking and worrying about some things because the body is warm and you are ready to probably do that. So I think that's the time you should get some sips of water and get back to sleep.
Okay, take sips of water to cool you off then at that point. Okay. Do you have any recommendations for people who may not be able to take melatonin and maybe have side effects, or if you've heard of any
Yeah, I
side
mean, so I
effects?
have had people who were sensitive to melatonin, and I use magnesium for them. And magnesium is also good because it helps them unwind and is a gentle muscle relaxant. And it also has a good effect on bowel movements, so it'll help them soften their bowels also. So magnesium is also another thing that I use. There are excellent Ayurvedic herbs that I use in my practice. Ashwagandha is one of them. So the Latin name of ashwagandha is Virenia somnifera. Somni means sleep, so it helps you sleep. So it will also help you sleep if at all you're taking ashwagandha. And it's not as a sleeping aid, but you take one in the morning, one in the evening, and that will regulate those rhythms and help you fall asleep and stay asleep that way.
Mhm. Yeah, I am a big fan of ashwagandha myself. So those are all the questions that we have. I think they were all great, and you answered them so well. I hope that everyone gets a chance to see Dr. Suhas's new book or see it whenever it comes out. Dr. Suhas, when is
It's
that?
already out. It has already published in 13 different languages worldwide. It's becoming very, very popular because it's a perfect template that will help you reset your biological timing. And people who are reading and following the program are sleeping better, have more energy during the day, and are slowly reversing their aging process.
That's great. Okay, so thank you for your insights and sharing your knowledge on chronobiology and Ayurvedic medicine. This webinar has been recorded, and so it will be available for future playback on our Douglas Laboratories website under the education section for all account holders to view later if you weren't able to actually view this or attend in person live. To show our appreciation, any live attendees for this will receive a follow-up email shortly with a coupon code for Douglas Laboratories products and shipping. So thank you all for your time. Thank you, Dr. Suhas, for joining us in these innovative educational pursuits, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.